I'm Caitlin May, and this is my persuasive speech on the use of Photoshop in teenage magazines. If you hand me the camera, we're going to meet our audience. We've got 2.5 here tonight. We're going to get started. Picture a teenage girl. Most likely you picture a young girl in trendy clothes, with a Starbucks in hand, texting away, with a 17 magazine tucked securely under her arm. The idea of teen magazines is so stereotypically associated with teenage girls that it's almost impossible to picture one without the other. However, in between tips for flirting and the proper technique for eyelash curling, these magazines are brainwashing impressionable young girls with toxic ideas. On every other page, with the Photoshop model on every other page, young girls are being inundated with unattainable ideals, with toxic consequences. For the safety and health of the youth of America, teenage magazines should stop using Photoshop. Lives may depend on it. Photoshop is everywhere. For the last 20 years, it's been perfect for both creative endeavors and the use of advertisements in today's society. Now, it's one thing for advertisers to use Photoshop to enhance their advertisements and even perfect the little flaws, such as changing some unflattering lighting or even taming a model's flyaway hair. However, when they shift from fixing some small flaws to altering the actual shape of their models' bodies, they cross a line from artistic endeavor to consumeristic idealism. Take, for example, this campaign done by Britney Spears with candies to show teenage girls that what they see in the magazines isn't always what it seems. You can see the difference from the before picture, in which she looks like a beautiful woman, to the after picture, what you see in the magazines. What you realize when you see this is that teen magazines are not just selling sunglasses and shoes, they're selling an impossible fantasy. Magazine editors say that everyone knows that this is just a fantasy. Everyone knows that these pictures are photoshops. And this is perfectly okay for adults, but magazines have serious effects on teenagers who see the fantasy being sold and instead interpret it as a standard to which they have to hold themselves. Now, it's common knowledge that self-esteem drops during your teens. 70% of teenage girls report that they feel not good enough. Teenage magazines do not improve this. 91% of teenage girls, after looking at a magazine for several minutes, will report feeling worse after looking at it. Now, this is perfect for magazine editors who want to create problems in order to sell you the Revlon skin toning, butt firming solution. But what happens to the girls who get told day in and day out that their natural beauty is not and will never be good enough? Low self-esteem can have massive effects. It can cause decreased school performance, and it increases your risk for risky sexual behavior. 5% of these girls who get told that they're not good enough will develop eating disorders, such as anorexia and bulimia. Of these 5%, more than a quarter of them will die. Magazines contribute to a culture that costs these girls their happiness, their health, their future, and sometimes their lives. Now, teen magazines have a responsibility, and they accept that their role as a platform to reach young women. In the last several years, 17 Magazine and Teen Vogue have covered touchy issues such as sexual orientation and gender identity, safety, and even things such as abuse. However, if they can admit that it's their responsibility to educate teen girls about all of these issues, how can they justify this psychological war on the youth of America? Well, they can't ignore the problem much longer. Recently, Jessica Bloom, an American 14-year-old, took a petition to the editors at 17 Magazine, asking them to just include a couple of non-Photoshop models in every issue. What she was basically told was that 17 Magazine supports women of all body shapes and sizes, but to get over it, they're not going to change anything. And they haven't. Don't let them get away with it. Sign the petitions. Boycott the magazines. Make your voice heard. Adults aren't expected to be perfect. Why are we?